On June 24th, Traquan Smith of the New Orleans Saints presents his youth football camp at Pompey Park in Delray Beach, Florida. You can register your kids at TraquanSmithFoundation.org. That's TraquanSmithFoundation.org. It's free for everyone, so be sure to bring all your kids out, right? There will be NFL players there that will be educating them on life and life in the NFL and how to play the game. So you want to make sure you bring out all your kids if you're in South Florida, or even if you're not in South Florida, you want to bring your kids to the Traquan Smith Youth Football Camp. All right, that's on June 24th at Pompey Park in Delray Beach.
All right, so back to the podcast.
Hello, class. Welcome back to another episode of the Student to Life podcast, where learning and unlearning has no limits. I am your host, Stretch, along with my co-host,
Shan.
And today, we have a very special guest here, a great friend of ours that came through to, drop some knowledge on us, my good friend, Safiya.
Yeah.
I want you to do my listeners a favor and tell them a little bit about yourself.
Just a little?
Just a little bit, not too much.
Well, hey guys, I am Safiya, proud owner of Safiya Boutique. What do I tell them, Stretch? I don't know.
Yeah, tell them about the boutique, where it is.
I have a shoe-teak.
Yes.
I don't like to call it a boutique, guys. I have a shoe-teek for the last 10 years. I'm a fashion wardrobe stylist. Oh yeah, recently awarded for that, yes.
Yes.
And
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I'm a business mentor as well. I do real estate. Oh my God.
Tell them about podcast.
I also have a talk show called Shooting Talk over the last 8 years as well. Am I touching it too much? Okay. I like to talk behind the scenes, y'all, sorry. So I have a talk show on YouTube. It's called Shooting Talk as well, where we interview hidden gems in the community that's doing great things. My husband and I also have a venue, and we do charitable events like giving back to the homeless the last couple of years as well. So we dabble in a little bit of everything in our community.
That's great.
Yeah.
So today, we're gonna talk a little bit about trauma. And Shan you have a definition here.
Yes, so we're going to touch on trauma, but we're going to small it down to generational trauma. So I want you guys to know what trauma is just in a whole, okay? So trauma is a deeply distressing or disturbing experience. A personal trauma like the death of a child. Emotional shock following a stressful event or a physical injury, which may be associated with physical shock and sometimes leads to long-term neurosis. The event is
relived.
Because
I know you be getting them words.
my tongue time. I'm a little bit on this thing, just a little.
You going tongue time?
Yeah, trust me.
The event is relived with all the accompanying trauma.
Yes. So basically, the like today when I went to therapy, my therapist was talking about just trauma overall, and her definition, to keep it simple, was any event that happens that has a long-term effect on you, whether mentally or physically. So it could be anything. She talks about the big trauma and the small trauma.
Okay.
Some small traumas are very much undetected. There's something that happened that you probably forgot about, but it's still affecting you and you have no idea.
Like an unintentional trauma.
Right, and then you have the big trauma that changed you forever, and whether physically, mentally, emotionally. So that's what we're going to touch on today and how it affects us now as adults.
Okay.
And generational.
Basically.
Overall.
Especially as people from the Caribbean, every older person that I've had conversations with that was raised back home will tell you that their parents didn't know any better.
It's true.
They didn't understand what the true essence of raising a child is. When I was in therapy today, we talked about physically disciplining a child. And for me, I would say, speak for myself, it didn't have no long-term effects on me personally. But my therapist was saying it could be how you deal with things. Like, you know that the consequences of any conflict is, we're gonna get in a fight instead of talking it out. And that could be as a result of the beatings you got as a child and how you was disciplined. Right, so they talk about all of that stuff. So What does trauma look like for you?
For me, I don't know. Trauma looks like several different things for me, and it depends on you're talking about the little trauma or the grand.
I'm talking about the overall trauma.
So overall trauma looks like for me, I would say my trauma would be my mother's death.
Yes, death is definitely one of
My
those.
mother's death 3 years ago was definitely trauma for me. It changed my entire life, my entire thinking, my entire mindset. It traumatized me.
Right.
It affected everything around me, my business, my children, my relationship, everything.
Right.
How I deal with other human beings. Yeah, that was my trauma.
But did it change you for like the better or for the worse?
Yeah.
At first, I would say it was for the worse
Right.
because I'm a very spiritual person, and it changed me spiritually. Like I was mad at God.
Right. I'm gonna touch on that too.
I was very mad.
Before you guys walked in, me and Elle was here and we was listening to Curly Lux. He's the one of the twin.
I know.
I listen to him religiously.
My husband listens to that religiously too.
Religiously, yes. And he was on a podcast too, and he was talking about the loss of his son. He was the same way. He was like, he was mad at God.
I was mad.
He was angry at God, like, why would you take something so precious from the world?
Yes.
There's so much bad people in the world.
I went through the same thing.
You know, there's so much horrible people doing horrible things. Why take such an innocent little child that didn't even live his life yet? And he said on his way to kill the person that was responsible for killing his son, his manager calls him. It's like his manager just sensed that he was gonna do something. And his manager calls him and was like, yo, I wanna tell you a story. And it was like, yo, man, I have no time for the story right now.
You know, I'm about to kill somebody.
Yeah, I'm about to go do this. And he was like, the car is waiting on him for him to go. And it was like, yo, just give me 5 minutes. And he told him a story about there was this king that he couldn't have a son. He couldn't, his wife couldn't conceive, basically.
I know you're talking about in the Bible.
Right. And when his wife finally conceived the child was supposed to be circumcised. And in that process, the child died. When the child cried out, the child died.
What's his name?
Right? So he was mad at God. And then he basically banished himself because that's a rule of his village to not be mad at God. So when he got banished, he met a rabbi. And the rabbi said to him, I've been waiting on you for 1,000 years. And he was like, I'm not 1,000 years old and neither are you. He's saying, no. The rabbi that lived 1,000 years was not circumcised. He came back in the form of your child to be circumcised and fulfill his purpose.
Wow. How deep.
That's deep.
And after that, he said his whole mind changed from actually committing that act.
Yeah.
So I would tell people that go through that trauma that no matter how hard it is, there's some purpose in loss.
It is definitely a purpose and a loss, but it's easier said than done if you have not experienced it.
Right.
I remember, so for me, I have a hands-on mom. And when I say a hands-on mom, my mom is hands-on with me and my sisters. Like, that's, I don't know how to explain it.
Pay attention to every detail, basically.
Every detail. She don't skip a beat with you, your kids, none of that. So for me, my mom, people get, and I still get emotional, so please forgive me if I do.
That's fine.
So people, people don't understand that part of it. If you don't have that type of relationship, you don't understand that deep cut, that deep hurt. And
when you're that connected to someone.
When you talk to somebody every day, when they all up in you, listen, it was my mother, but she was everything.
Right.
And just like, his child was young and was innocent, and my mom died at 69. But I remember thinking there's so much other people out there that's not mothers.
Right.
Like, y'all don't care.
They're not doing the right thing.
Y'all ain't doing the right thing. Y'all don't care about y'all children, y'all grandchildren. She is a community person. Like, put it this way. When my mom passed, she worked at Broward General for over 30 years, and they gave her, she's the only black woman, I said it on this podcast, with a bench in front of the hospital at Broward General, because that's how much things that she did, and they loved her in that community. And I said, she's so good. And why did I take my mother? You know what I'm saying? Because my mother wasn't sick. And that's what people, I remember my mom.
That's what hit you hardest.
Yeah, that's what hit me hardest, because my mother wasn't sick. It's like us sitting here right now tonight, and then tomorrow, boom. She wasn't sick. My mother went to work 13 hours before she died. And then the next day, she dropped down. It was like, whoa, give me a second, God. You're going, what are you doing? It's too fast for me. So, and it affected my sisters and I so much. My dad, like, we come from a household where, like, our parents have been married for over 50 years. So everything in our family is close-knit. So this was such trauma in every aspect. Went from me being mad with God, from me not being able to get out of bed, and I'm a go-getter. If you know anything about me, I don't stop. I do 100 things a day. And I could not get out of bed. I was so angry. I am so trained, and I use the word trained. You know how you wake up and it's just a routine. Brush your face, brush your teeth, wash your face. That's me with my Bible. So as I get up in the morning, that's the first thing I reach for. People reach for their phones, I reach for my Bible. And then I go into my affirmations, and I go into my little closet, and that's my little time with God. Pick up what Bible? My mom and dad, I said, what may I pick up this for? This can't make sense. No pre-warning, no, like, what is it that I've done wrong? I've been doing everything you told me to do. I've been trying. You know, I stay away from places, just things, like, I felt like I could have been so much grander had I sell out my soul. That's why I said that to you earlier. And I didn't, I stayed grounded, but you took her. And I was so mad, I didn't read any of that. And I remember, in my marriage, I am the speaker. My husband is the most, my mom would say, I have fire and water. Made of fire, him of the water. Yeah, he's definitely. Leave me alone, stretch.
This episode of the Student Alive podcast is sponsored by Vintage Florists and Events. For the Valentine's Day flowers, for your Mother's Day flowers, for your Christmas, your anniversary, whatever you need these flowers for, these teddy bears, whatever arrangements, you could hit up Vintage Florists and Events.
Yes.
The number to call to make orders, place orders, or for more info is 754-423-4673.
So I remember one day, he said to me, so you're not gonna get up and pray again? And I said, I was so angry at everybody. I said, leave me alone. Your mom is alive, you don't even understand. And he was going to work, and he stopped and he said to me, baby, it's not the time for God to be upset at God right now. Open your Bible. And I said, please, leave me alone. Your mom is alive. My husband is not a person that tells me, like, what to do, how you should do it. He let me be me. You know, and when he stood at the door and said, baby, I need to read the Bible. And I was like, why doesn't he understand what I'm going through? He left, and I was locked in a room many days. All happened was my kids were coming to the door. Mom, did you eat? No, I'm not hungry. My husband, Safiya, have you eat? No, I'm not hungry. I went into the shell that I didn't recognize who I was. I just got up, bathroom, bed. My business was closed. Customers was calling me. And my customers are like family to me. So it was like, for me to do that, I just didn't care anymore. Like, just let it be done already. You took her, take me. And that's how and then to be able to have to be a part of your sisters planning this. I said, well, we're not planning funeral. And then my sister's like, you're the writer in the family. You're gonna do, you know, what is it called when you do the thing for your mom? I'm not for your mom. The obituary. I said, what? How am I gonna find the strength to do this? I said, I can't do this. And then everybody's calling, pictures are coming in. My husband's friends are showing up to the house with flowers, and it was just so much.
You didn't know that process all that coming
I couldn't process it. And I'm a person, I'm so big on gifts and flowers and stuff, and they didn't know what to do, and I could not process it, and I'm like, I can't. Babe, I just need a time to breathe. And he would just literally sit in a room with me, sit on the bed and not say nothing. That's just the person he is. I didn't even want that.
There's so much
you
to
just
take
wanted
away.
time
There's
for
so much to take
yourself.
away, but I'm gonna let you keep going.
I didn't even want that. I just wanted to be alone, close the door, nobody comes.
Yeah, just leave me alone.
Did you go to therapy?
I did. And I walked out of therapy. I did. My pastor is like a second mom to me, and even her calls I wasn't taking. That's so unusual for me. And I felt like my husband felt like I was just gonna throw in the towel. And one of the things he said to me, he said, Safiya, you're right, I don't know what it feels like to lose your mom. But I do know that I'm losing my wife. I do know that our children need you. And you've always been a fighter, so get up and fight. And I said, what am I fighting for? And he said, yeah, fight for your life. Your mom would not want you to give up. And I was so angry at him for expecting me to fight. when I was at the lowest point in my life.
Yeah.
And again, I said to him, you'll never understand it. And he said, then help me to help you. Again, my husband is not.
You have to know him to understand.
You have to know him to understand. And he said, help me to help you. And I realized that at that point, I've only seen my husband cry 2 times out of 16 years of being together and 10 years married. And literally his eyes filled up and he said, please help me to help you. Because you lost your mom, but if I lose my wife, what will kids do? Safiya, get up and fight. I was mad that he expected that. But when he left, he said, do me a favor, just go to God now. Go to God. And I went in the closet and I cried and I screamed and I told him how upset I was at him. And I said, God, I just don't want to understand. And I called my sisters and they weren't no help because they were going through the same thing. And so it was no help. My dad is worse than my husband. He doesn't talk. So it was like you felt lost. And then everybody else that was around you telling you, understand. And it's like a part of you want to show, you don't understand. Your mother is alive. You go home to see yours. But I had to come to that part and go to therapy. My pastor said, go to therapy. And I went to therapy. And yes, it's a stigma. Black people don't believe in that therapy. I never believe in it. Nah, ask, you know. And I have a women's club of 20 women that I mentor to. And when I went to therapy, and this lady sitting across from me, and she's like, okay, I know that you're used to being a speaker and stuff, but she said, allow me to speak. And I said, what she gonna tell me about my mother right now? This white woman, I gonna tell me about my mother right now. And she shared her story with me of how she lost her mom.
Now you have to
That's what gave you the peace.
I took a step back. And I listened because this person could relate to me. And she had the bond with her mom the way me and my sisters would with ours. And then she said, our next session, I'm gonna introduce you to somebody. I'm like, next session, me not come. And in my head, I'm saying that I don't make no plan to make I'm not coming. And I did come back because her story, it touched me. So I went back, and when I went back, it was a young lady there that lost her 2 kids. And they were young, like you're saying about curly locks thing. And I thought to myself, I have so much to live for. I have my kids looked at me in such a different way. They were saddened. My kids were just their highlight in football, getting calls from all over the world, and I couldn't be there because I couldn't.
Mentally, you're not there.
And I had to get it together mentally because they would come home every day and be so concerned with me. Mommy, you okay? Like, they've never seen me like that. And when I listened to that lady tell me about her 2 kids that she lost, I thought to myself, how selfish have I been? My mom lived a great life. She would never want to see me like this. 69 years, she would never. And I used her trauma to help me with mine. Because every time I thought about those 2 little kids that she lost and what she was going through, my mom lived a lot of years.
So basically, your head is like, it could be worse.
It could be worse.
Right.
So I did that. I said it could be worse. So every time I got traumatized with it again, I still think about her.
So it's funny that you said that you had to, through therapy, you had to hear another story to give you the peace, because I spoke about it on this podcast before. I had a stillborn before my daughter, a 7-month-old stillborn from a car accident.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, she's my little angel. But God blessed me right after. But in that process, I literally was like in the hospital. I tell people all the time that I've carried death and I've carried life. I had to carry her in my stomach for 2 days before I was able to push her out. And they come in the room, they're like, this is a pamphlet to go see therapists and get all this stuff. And I'm like,
You're not at that place.
F word this. And I took 3 weeks off of work, and at that time I was working at the salon. And when I went back to the salon, I remember walking through the back door, and Lord, my heart's pounding. I remember walking through the back door and seeing everybody, because I left, last time they see me, I had a 7-month belly. And my friend 88 was there, my coworker 88 was there, and I literally turned around and he was right behind me, and I broke down in his chest because I was like, I can't do this. I can't do this. He was like, you got this, you got this. And I went out there, And I went for like 3 months straight. I went through a process of everybody being like, did you have the baby? Did you have the hardest thing ever? And I told people say, you never went to therapy? And I said, I never went to therapy because God made my clients my therapy. My clients and other Patricia's clients, other stylist clients went through similar things. And they were able to come and tell me this. They started bringing
that
gifts.
inspired you.
And that inspired me. And it inspired me to also tell the story more because a lot of people feel like they're alone.
And it's cleansing.
Yes.
It's cleansing. For me, part of my trauma too was I developed anxiety attacks and panic attacks. I've always been a very, I guess y'all like to say strong girl, but strong girls break too. And I developed anxiety and panic attacks, and I still get them like every time. True fact. I was talking about this today. I was at Sands last night.
Which I saw you. I think I saw you.
Yeah, you couldn't have missed me. And I was at Sands last night, and I don't know, I felt like a teardrop fell on me. So I said to my husband, mind you, I'm not in the mind frame of trauma or my mom, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I said, oh my God, baby, I really gonna fall. No, my wig can't wait up right now. So he said, you feel rain? And I looked up just to see if it was, rain. And when I looked up, I saw the clouds. And I swear to y'all, and no, I'm not crazy, y'all. I swear to y'all, I sometimes in my head I see my mom peeping out and giving me some strength.
Right.
So I looked up just to see if the rain, and the moon was such in a position, and right behind the cloud, I could have sworn I saw my mom, and she smiled. And unbeknownst to me, I didn't know I was still looking up. When my husband and his friend said, Safi, is that rain or not? And it's like I came back into, you know what I'm saying? And I said, oh, not sure. And then he said, are you okay? And then in the middle of Sands, I start get panic attacks. Because every time I think about my mom, I start get panic. Yeah. And he said, are you okay? And I had to start sucking on ice because there it goes, like whenever to process it, I still deal with that. And I developed that right after. I have no health problems until then. And then the doctor said, therapy, and I'm gonna give you something when you're feeling it. But I've never been a medication person, you know what I'm saying? But when I tell you, trauma.
So. I know everybody needs a little motivation sometime in life, whether you're in elementary school, middle school, high school, college, or even an adult going about your everyday life. Everybody needs a little information, a little education, and a little motivation. So you need that from somebody who's educated, somebody who's awesome, somebody with the information, and somebody who can give you everything you need. Shan, who's that person we're talking about?
Gimme the Mic with Faye Bailey. You can reach her on Instagram at Faye Bailey ADU or online at hitsinc.org. Okay? She has been traveling, speaking with many different audiences, and just pouring a lot of information and motivation on a lot of people. And she is also a scholar of Toastmasters, so you know she is in there and she knows everything, every detail to give you all the motivation that you need. So remember, you can reach her at Faye Bailey ADU or hitsinc.org for any event that you want to book her with. She will come through and she will light up the stage.
So with that, meditation is always the best medicine for something like that, because most times what causes panic attacks is you're thinking about what's going to happen. So when you're so centered, you don't think about all of that stuff.
But here's the thing, before my mom passed, I did yoga.
Yeah.
Meditation is a big thing of mine by my pool every morning. But when you're processing that type of grief,
It's hard to be centered. Yeah.
it's very hard to be centered because memories just come flooding.
And I think as humans, especially because busy women like us, we're like, okay, get over it, get over it. In our mind, we're like, get over it. We're not giving ourselves time to sit there and just be like, I have to let this just
That's
take
a trauma
its,
response.
you know,
It's a response to trauma.
We're used to it just
What's
moving.
trauma response?
Right, and then like I said before, a lot of these things are from childhood. We weren't taught how to deal with
Grief.
grief. We had an episode about grief.
We were taught just to move on.
Yeah, we were taught just to
And where you ball for?
stay busy.
What are you crying for? You know, we were,
That's
Sure.
also, I'm going to touch on all of that today, where we talk about even us men, how we were taught to never
Not cry, never show
ever
emotion.
Well, you know, talk about men that don't cry. It's another episode for him. I literally saw my husband cry 2 times.
Yeah.
In 16 years.
Oh, yeah. I only saw my dad cry once.
2 times. And the second time, I didn't call it cry. Because I used to say, do you have like blood? Is it like red on? I swear to God, I used to touch him. Yeah, it's red under there. Is it like blood? Because men were taught. My husband's very militant, and so is my dad.
That's what my dad is.
Very militant, like army.
And I think the reason why my dad was crying, I don't know if you want me to share this, but the reason why he was crying is because of the sudden death, like he was talking about. He was literally like about to iron his shirt.
His wife?
No, his sister's brother. He was such a genuine person, like great guy. And we just got the call. He went to the hospital, he died.
It was sudden.
He was ironing, he was just bawling.
I don't think people understand how much that's the sudden thing, it's so much worse. Because it's like, I have a friend now and her mom passed away recently, but she expected this the last 6 months. So in the last 6 months, you had time to prepare. I mean, you're never prepared for somebody you love. Let me just say that. But at least you mentally, you can kind of put yourself in that mindset of position, like, all right, it's coming. Yeah. But to go, bloop, bloop, like what happened?
Right.
Baby. Yeah. That brings out so much emotion.
When I got the call about my friend that passed away, I wear him on my chain all the time. I don't have it right now, but the night, normally I go to work I get up at like 7 to go to work. So that morning is like, I can't stay asleep. It's like my turn on twist, and I was like, you know what? I want to go to work early. I got up at 4:30 to go to work. I got to work at somewhere close to 5. On the way to work, I got a text. Shano died. Wow. That's all the text said. I was like,
oh gosh, so harsh. What kind of text is that?
This must be a joke. I went on my Instagram and started looking. And it's 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, nobody is posting,
So right away, I started calling everybody. Wow. Call Basie, which is my other brother. Call him. He's bawling. Like he can't get the words out.
Can't talk to you.
At that point, I started like freezing up, like what's going on. And then call somebody else, and now I'm getting the story. And I sat in the car for like 45 minutes just looking.
Like anyone did.
Yeah,
it's true. It's true.
That was it.
That's true. I got the call when my mom, when the hospital called me, it's like, oh, you got to get to the hospital now. Your mom just, because my mom had a heart attack in CVS. She worked 13 hours, went to CVS, was having stomach problems, and then, anyway, I got the call, and I'm like, wait a minute, you're just going too fast. Yeah. You can't even, and it was too much. But anyway, my first initial trauma started with my only brother. My only brother got shot in his head by police officers in Jamaica. Humblest person you'll ever meet. By the way, I think that's why I'm attracted to Rastas. Yeah. my brother was the humblest. I mean, I wasn't a fashion Rasta. Right. I mean Rasta. Militant, cook pan, wood stove. When I would go to Jamaica, be up in a hotel, being bougie, my brother would take me down to where he lived in the country, like wood stove, and he got his mother's neighbor, in Portmore, because we had same father, different mother, was a police officer, and my nephews were little at a time, and they were playing basketball. Basketball come from Jamaica, and them time they biggest thing for kids, and they were bouncing the ball and hit the brand new car, and he said, "Oh, like I'm a car, I'm a new kid," and my brother being, said, "Material things, this you can't really, pit me a player." Say, I don't want him to touch the car. My brother go back in the house, kids, they go back to playing the damn ball. We hate it and scratch it this time. So my brother's mother came out and they were arguing, and he called, I can't say it on the podcast, some words, and my brother said, no, you can't talk to her, so. It's a woman I talk to, so. And he was one of those cocky police officers, just took out his gun, pop in front of the whole neighborhood. That left me traumatized for a year. That was my first real trauma. And I think that trauma, though, I think you asked in the first segment of this when we started, I would say that was the most traumatizing thing for me again, but it was life-changing towards as far as how that changed me. It made me love Rasta, man. I don't like ballad, man. Look at him behind the camera. I don't like this girl enough. And reality is, it really changed me towards towards being with men that were more like my brother. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So that trauma kind of ended up in a good way where I choose it right Monday. I start get it right.
Because you've seen an example of.
Yes, of humbleness and meekness and militancy and I don't know. So it's like everybody I dated since after that was that type.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
That makes sense.
And that's why a lot of women actually choose men like their fathers, or if the father's not there, they look for the love.
No lie.
They look for love from whoever could give that companionship.
Did you notice that was happening, that when you would choose a person, or
Not
was
at
it like
the
a
time.
download later on, like, dang,
Later on.
Yeah, so it's that unintentional trauma.
Yeah. Later on down the road is when I noticed that
She
because
figured it out afterwards.
Yeah.
yes, I did later on because when I feel like I'm not telling her too much of my business. do you have a widely Jamaican audience? Because I go into patois sometimes, guys.
We do.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right, so I feel like unintentional, definitely, but it just started happening because when I dated, it wasn't like, okay, I was just looking for rastas. So like, say for instance, I dated Stretch, and I remember like when I dated my husband, he just had braids, and I think it was Hurricane Andrew, one of them hurricanes that had happened, and I ended up putting dreads in his hair. But then down the line, I realized that I dated somebody before him that I did the same thing too. Yeah, and then I realized, like a Rastaman can walk in here right now, and I'm very happily married, so please, guys.
Yeah.
So a Rastaman can walk in here right now, and it pulls my attention to the point of, is he humble? Is he meek? Is he?
Right.
I'm
Does
just
he have the quality?
The quality, yes.
Yeah.
And not to look him in that type
Right.
of way, but I don't know. They're more angelic to me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like they're more angelic to me in a way where, I don't know, them treat woman better. No, not every Rasta.
No.
Please, Stretch. I'm the woman. I date them.
Right.
Like so I don't know.
Yeah.
In my perception, God has given me the right. No, I'm married to a right Rasta one.
Sorry, there you go.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, if you are here in South Florida, please check out Skyless Hair Studio. That's SKYLYST, where we specialize in hair care, locks, colors, cuts,
You can
all
do
that
mine
good
too?
stuff. Yes, we definitely do men's hair as well. Okay, so we are here in Tamarack, Florida. Check us out and we'll take care of all your hair needs.
So where can they find you?
You can find us at CEO YourLife_Skyless Hair Studio on Instagram or online at skylesshairstudio.com.
Hey.
All right.
The trauma that a lot of women, that what affects them is when the father's not present or when the father's lacking something. A lot of times they try to find it, look for it in somebody else.
In a man.
That's their requirement. You know, a lot of women, especially with the father that's not there, they're just settled for whoever could give them that dominancy. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if you grew up without a father, and remember, kids need both energies, the female and the male energy in the household. If you're only getting the female energy and this guy that you meet is dominating you, giving you that male energy that you're missing, you're gonna gravitate to that without even having a list to say, I'm going by this to do this the right way.
Oh, gotcha.
Whatever that's appealing to that side of you, that
That's
void
what you're gonna take on.
that's missing. And then there's the other part with you now, whereas your father is such a perfect man that he's like, when your friends came on to the single episode, she was talking about her dad was an example of how she wants to be treated. Her dad treated her so good growing up, gave her everything, the love, the compassion, the material things, like she knew what it was supposed to be.
But you know, you're 100% right with that, Stretch, because like my two daughters now, right? My two daughters say that to me all the time, and they say it to my husband all the time. So, because, you know, like, okay, when I met my husband, they were kids. And they say it to me all the time now, and they say it to him. They're like, if I cannot marry a man like my stepfather, I don't want no man.
Right.
They say it all the time. And I guess like the first one or two times I heard them say it, I just be like, okay, that's really good. But what you just said is really true.
Yeah, it is, because like I said,
That's really true.
every child needs their father. They need their mother, but every child also needs their father.
They need their mama.
Of course they do. They need their mama. Like most kids are cling to their moms, but they need that energy from their dads.
It's true. It's
You know
true.
what I'm saying? Certain things, like even with a little boy that grew up without a father, he has no example.
Yeah.
He has no example of how to be a man.
True.
No matter how dominant a woman is, you cannot teach a man how to be a man.
Nope.
Yeah.
You cannot do that. So I feel like a lot of that trauma starts from your childhood, where the broken home, that broken home where daddy ain't there. So he went outside of the house to find that male energy that to look up to. Now you're looking up to the drug dealer, you're looking up to all these people.
Yeah, but not to cut you, sometimes it's another episode. But let me tell you this, personally speaking from experience as well. Sometimes it's not the biological father that give your children that positive experience.
True.
I was just about to say
I
that.
tell you that by living.
But sometimes it's both ways is what I'm saying.
Yes,
You get the
definitely.
positive side, because I've got my dad's friends. We have a community where my dad's friend could discipline us.
I think it's like that for most Jamaicans, no?
Not in every community though.
Oh, in ours, in mine it was
Because
too.
some communities like mine, everybody know everybody. Everybody knows each other. The inner city, I grew up in the country. The inner city is a bit different.
What country you grew up in?
St. Anne, in the country. I'm not telling
yeah.
nobody where
You're
I
a
come from
country boy. You're a
specifically.
country boy.
Yes,
Well, that's why you're disciplined, so.
very much. Yes. So they're able to discipline you in the community way, like where your
one
kid
village.
goes down the street and do something, the village is able to
One
say,
village.
you're not doing that right. In certain areas now, you don't. The example is the gunman, the Don, the area leader.
yeah.
That's what
They look
go
up
off
to
of.
that.
Yeah, they look up to that,
Because their
yeah.
dad is in jail.
In jail.
So their example is go to jail or be the area leader or be the Don or be the drug dealer. Now they're able to see more examples because of social media, but they take that example and try to get there so fast. Because you see an artist that's here, not knowing that it took him 15 years to get to this
there.
level.
Get there,
But
yeah.
you just see him just now. You want to go scam and rob
Do the most
just to
good
get
15
to
to
Get
that
to wish what he has
pinnacle.
rather than building.
So I feel like that broken household has a lot to do with a lot of the traumas
trauma.
that's projected on other people.
That's
like
true.
they say, hurt people hurt people.
That's my motto all the time.
Yep.
And it's also good into the trauma too, like, because for me, like I grew up in a very middle class is what they refer to it now in this generation, where we grew up okay. We never, Spanish Town girl.
Yeah, I can relate to that, yeah.
Yeah, so I grew up like in a middle class
something like
household
that.
where my mother, was a teacher. My father had his own trucking company. Like me and my sisters were well off, and we didn't experience hardships and those things. And we left Jamaica when I was pretty young, when I was 6, and I grew up in New York. And as what he's saying, there's a lot of, when I grew up, we had mommy, daddy, everything in the house. And then when I went to school, because I was nerd, but that's, yeah. And when I grew up, I saw kids that didn't have both of that. And like he said, like I had a guy friend that his dad was the streets.
Yeah.
That's where he learned to be a man. Back in high school.
And like I said, that I think we need to fix the family structure. That's a main part of it. And also, let's get into a topic that you guys could touch on more than me, because you got kids, right? Raising kids, especially in a society like this. To be honest with you, I'm scared to have kids.
Why?
Because of the way the world is going and where the direction that it's going in.
That's true.
That makes me really scared to have children in a world like this, especially with the way it's turning.
The generation. Too.
Yeah, now it's hard to hide stuff from your kids now, to train them to
You
bring
cannot
up-
hide anything.
Exactly.
Even
It's
when
very
I was a
hard.
kid, it was hard for my parents to hide
And
stuff.
not only that,
Not for me.
it's who you have kids with also.
Oh, we have kids. Yeah. Say it again, please.
That is huge.
Say it again.
Yeah.
These are the things that make me very, very scared to have kids. Today I was watching a podcast and she was talking about genetics and genes, how that trauma can regenerate those genes and pass that trauma, that stress, that anxiety, that depression down to your kids.
Down to your kids.
You know what I'm saying? In order to regenerate that back to the positive side, it's going to take a long time to do that.
And it does. I hear people telling me today, like, I have 5 children, proudly. Yes, I do. Don't look upon me.
That's your insurance plan.
So I have 5 kids, and a lot of the things that people tell me all the time is like, especially like with my last 2, they're about to graduate on Saturday, by the way. They always say, how is it? Because people used to come to our household and say, I'm sure not 5 people in that house. I'm gonna hear nothing.
Right.
The way we grew up, me and my sisters, like when my parents had guests over, you're not an adult, you're a child, go in your room.
Yeah.
So my husband and I, he's very militant, and I come from a very disciplined family. So raise the children the same way. But people, I noticed, like, this generation, they will come and be very surprised that, you know, and then a lot of things I see, like even in my business every day in my store, I'll see customers come in with their kid, and young, old, whatever you want to call it, but not over adulting age. And they talk to their parents like a them friend.
That's what I'm saying.
And I would sit in the store and wait for them to address it, and it's like...
The thing is, it's not all about, it's not bad all on that side. I'm gonna get into that. So now, for me, that's the scared part for me for having kids. That's the part where you have kids with the wrong person, everything could go left.
So when you use the word the scared part, are you saying like that person is not gonna be sharing the same
beliefs as
you?
Right.
Okay.
Because even with raising kids, when I was growing up, right, we got disciplined differently. And when I talk to my parents about it, what they would say is that's what their parents did, so they didn't know better.
Correct.
You cannot blame them.
My parents said that too.
I never blame my parents for what they did, and it worked with us. That doesn't work with every child.
No.
That, a lot of children see that as that was abuse. We thought that was regular parenting.
That's regular parenting for us.
You know, when I moved here and I saw kids talking back to their parents, I was like, wow.
Me too.
You're not dead yet?
Yeah.
And then I had to realize that you have to find different
The balance.
The balance. Because when I was in therapy today, we talked about it with my therapist. She was like, the first time that I got disciplined for begging somebody, it was literally me asking a stranger for something. And my dad put it on me, disciplined me the real way. I was so ashamed of it that he didn't even have to do that. All he had to do was talk to me about it, because that's how ashamed of it I was. You know what I'm saying? And that how he disciplined me in that moment made me never want to even ask anybody.
But that was the point.
I have a hard time.
I'm not put my name.
I have a hard time now accepting gifts. I have a hard time asking for favors.
You serious?
Oh yeah, I have a hard time doing it. I'm super independent.
Yeah.
I reserve back to that.
Yeah.
Even in therapy today, she was like, that is why.
Yeah. So it's funny you say that, because when I grew up...
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay, so when I grew up, I grew up with my mom and my aunt before my stepdad came in the picture when I was 10. And he was in my life from 10 to 18. And my aunt was a hairstylist. She was rough. I'll tell you about her. Rough.
Yeah,
and my mom,
I'm reminding you of her.
Yes, and so my mom was she was the opposite. She was more, she never would give me a beating. I would have to do something very, very bad. But my auntie I was the only child, and she had a daughter, which is my cousin, and she was the only child. So, you know, we grew up as like sisters. And man, this lady used to tear us up to the point. It was one point to where she used to make us kneel down on the bottle tops, the bare bottle tops.
That's abuse.
But hold on, sorry. She made us do it. She made us do it because the beating stopped working. Right?
Oh yeah, that's something.
And I grew up thinking I even grew up thinking domestic violence was love.
What?
Man, listen.
Trust me, it was
normal. Bad. I seen her.
Yeah,
and I knew my aunt didn't know better, but I grew up seeing her having physical fights with her boyfriend, and then they loving each other again.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, it's okay to do that, you know. And I had to learn the hard way that's not love.
But,
and hold on really quick, but when I had my daughter, you know, I used to think that, okay, if I slap her, is the first thing that she's gonna learn that way. And I realized real quick, because my daughter's just 6, that's not gonna help her. I started to show her and tell her that if you don't listen to me, life is gonna humble you. Like, and she started to, and I said, okay, watch, you don't listen to me, watch what you're saying. I only have one.
Okay, so